Hey Reddit, can you give me the scariest stories?
The fluorescent lights in the emergency department at St. Catherine's always had a particular hum, a sterile, weary drone that blended into the background of beeping monitors, whispered consultations, and the rubber squeak of shoes on linoleum. I was a nurse there for 12 years, Lisa. You see enough to become comfortably numb, or so you think. The traumas, the codes, the tragedies, they become a grim procedural dance. But one admission, one single patient, scraped away that numbness and left something cold and permanent underneath. It was a slow Tuesday, just after 2 a.m., the witching hour of the hour. The rain sheeted down outside, making the ambulance bay a shimmering black mirror. That's when the EMS radio crackled to life with a rare note of tension in the dispatcher's voice. Incoming, adult male, late 20s, found conscious but unresponsive at the scene. Police are escorting. ETA 4 minutes. Unresponsive but conscious? My attending, Dr. Armand, muttered, glancing up from his chart. That's a new one. The doors burst open, and the controlled chaos began. The patient, named Daniel, was on the gurney, his eyes wide open, staring straight up at the ceiling lights. He was pale, shivering violently despite being dry. A police officer, her face grim, followed closely. Found him in his apartment living room, she said to Dr. Armand. Door was unlocked. TV on static. No signs of struggle, no drug paraphernalia. He just won't speak. Won't move, but he seems to be seeing things. We got him into a bay. I started vitals, BP elevated, heart rate through the roof, temp normal. His pupils were dilated, but they reacted to light. He was there, biologically. But the man inside was absent. His gaze wasn't vacant, it was fixed. It was as if he was watching a terrifying movie projected onto the inside of his own skull. We ran the gamut. Tox screen, head CT, metabolic panel. All normal. No evidence of seizure, stroke, or overdose. He was, medically, a complete mystery. Dr. Armand tried every neurological test. He'd lift Daniel's arm, and it would stay where placed, classic waxy flexibility, usually seen in severe catatonia. But catatonia doesn't usually come on so suddenly in a healthy young man with no psychiatric history. The unsettling part was his eyes. They would slowly, methodically, track across the ceiling, as if following something's movement. Then they'd go wide with pure, unadulterated terror. A tear would streak down his temple into his hairline. But no sound, no whimper. His breath would hitch, his heart monitor blipping faster, but his mouth remained a slack, silent line. The police officer lingered, waiting for us to unlock him so she could ask questions. She pulled out a small evidence bag. We found this clutched in his left hand. Fingers were pried open with difficulty. Inside the bag was a crumpled Polaroid photograph. It was a selfie, taken in what looked like Daniel's own apartment. He was smiling, arm around a smiling woman. But over his own face in the photo, he had carefully drawn, in what looked like black marker, a large, crude X. Over the woman's face, a question mark. And in the background, slightly blurry by the hallway to the bedroom, was a dark, tall silhouette, a blur that seemed too solid to be a trick of the light. Someone, or something, else had been in the apartment when the photo was taken. A cold knot formed in my stomach. An hour later, his results still clean, we were considering psychiatric hold options. I was adjusting his IV when it happened. The heart monitor began to shriek. Not the steady alarm of a stopped heart, but the erratic, chaotic scream of ventricular tachycardia, a heart gone mad. Daniel's body went rigid, his back arching off the bed. For the first time, his mouth opened. And a voice came out. But it wasn't his voice. It was a guttural, wet whisper, layered with a harmonics that made my spine feel like ice. It spoke 2 sentences, clear as day. He saw the question mark. Now he's reading the text. Then, as suddenly as it began, the arrhythmia stopped. Daniel's body went limp, his heart settling back into a normal rhythm on the monitor. His eyes closed. He began to breathe deeply, as if in normal sleep. The room was dead silent. The other nurse, Javier, and I just stared at each other. Dr. Armand looked pale. The police officer crossed herself. Daniel slept for 6 hours. When he woke, he was fine. Groggy, confused about how he got to the hospital, but fine. He had no memory of the previous 24 hours. No memory of the Polaroid, of his catatonia, of the voice. He asked for his girlfriend, Becky. The officer's face tightened. She showed him the Polaroid. Daniel looked genuinely bewildered. That's me and Becky, but I didn't draw on this. Who's that in the back? A shadow? The investigation turned to Becky. She hadn't been seen or heard from in 2 days. Daniel was discharged with a clean bill of health and a referral to a psychiatrist he never saw. The case, medically, was closed as an episode of acute, unexplained psychosis with somatic symptoms. But the police file stayed open. 2 weeks later, the officer came back to the ER for a different case and found me. She looked exhausted. "You remember Daniel?" she asked. I nodded, the memory of that voice instantly fresh. "We found Becky," she said, her voice flat, in a storage unit rented under a fake name. Daniel's fake name, traced back to him. She'd been there for days before he came to the hospital. My blood went cold. Was she alive? The officer said, but the word held no relief. Barely. Dehydrated, hypothermic. She's in a psych ward now. She won't speak either, but she writes. Over and over. She fills notebooks. What does she write? I asked, almost not wanting to know. The officer leaned closer, lowering her voice. The same thing, page after page. The text is on the walls. Don't look at the text. He looked at the text. We never figured out what the text meant. No strange writings were found in Daniel's apartment. No cult symbols, no creepy manuscripts. Just a normal, clean living space. But here's the thing that haunts me, the Untold Part 1 only share in whispers. After Daniel was discharged, I was tasked with cleaning his bay for the next patient. As I was wiping down the monitor, my cloth brushed against the side of the bed rail, the spot where his left hand had been tightly clenched. There, etched into the metal, were faint, tiny marks. They weren't random scratches. They were characters, like a scrambled, frantic attempt at writing something. I'm not an expert, but I looked it up later. They bore a passing, chilling resemblance to a very old, very dead cuneiform script. Sometimes, in the quiet hum of the night shift at St. Catherine's, I think about Daniel and Becky. I think about the thing in the Polaroid. And I wonder if his episode wasn't a psychiatric break at all, but a quarantine. As if his mind, having seen something it shouldn't have, something he called the text, shut his body down to protect itself, and whatever that voice was the infection fighting its way out. And I am desperately, terribly afraid that it succeeded, just a little, in scratching its message into our world. I check the bed rails in Bay 3 every shift. The marks are gone, buffed out by maintenance. But I still see them in my sleep. I still hear that wet, layered whisper in the drone of the fluorescents.
Subscribe for more stories.